Hey everybody, welcome back to BobkeTV. Stage 17, all done in the books, won by Aqua Blue Sports. A very new team, invited to the Vuelta from Ireland, the team of Larry Warbasse. Larry Warbasse delivered a remarkable stage earlier this year, if you caught that, in the Tour of Switzerland. Larry went on to win the National Road Racing Championships. But crashed out of the Vuelta early in the Vuelta, and I thought he was their best chance to win a stage during the Vuelta. But Stefan Denifl from Austria won today's stage to Los Machucos in what was a really astounding stage win, holding off a rampaging Alberto Contador in the final miles of an incredibly steep climb. Los Machucos hopefully is going to be a part of the Vuelta on a regular basis for the years to come. Great finishing climb, spectacular scenery, incredible roads, great crowd, plenty of room, it seemed like, for everybody because the riders were going in one by one. There was very few groups larger than 2 or 3 riders coming to the finish line together, to give you an idea of how steep that was. And Stefan Denifl, I'm not sure exactly how to pronounce it. I'll get that right before too long. Call the team, ask them. Contador, I don't know how many times we're going to see this in the future, but I have a feeling it's not going to be that many. Drops Miguel Angel Lopez, chasing the stage win, fell just a few seconds short of the stage winner, but Contador absolutely rampaging on the last climb. Los Machucos, an appetizer, if you will, for the Angliru, which is Saturday. So a couple of days in between now and the Angliru, one of the most fearsome climbs in all of cycling. If you saw the stage, you will have seen how steep the gradients were on the Los Machucos to finish off today's stage, and those just keep going on the Angliru without any let up. There's none of the plateaus and even little dips that we saw from today's stage on Saturday. So it's going to be an incredibly difficult stage. I have a little bit of a comparison for the quickest top 10 times up the final climb, which, by the way, Stefan Denifl is right in there. So he was absolutely flying today. The fastest, though, was Alberto Contador. It took him 21 minutes and 8 seconds. Lopez, Nibali, Zakarin, and Micah, 21:44. Michael Woods continuing to ride well, 21:53. Wilco Kelderman chasing Zakarin, trying to keep his podium spot alive, 21:59. Then Denifl, 22:02. De La Cruz, better than the time trial, that's for sure. 22:22. Kreuzweek, same time. Mikel Nieve riding for Chris Froome, 22:26. Alberto Contador taking 1 minute and 16 seconds out of Chris Froome. Whew. If Alberto had had a better opening week, that would have been a pretty massive drubbing of Chris Froome. So Chris Froome got around about a minute from his rivals in the time trial, Nibali and Contador and Wilco Kelderman, but they got most of that back plus some for Contador. So that gives you a little bit of perspective. I think is the first time we saw Chris Froome in trouble, leading a Grand Tour in that how deep of trouble he was in. I don't remember ever seeing that before. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think maybe the time trial took a lot more out of him than he intended or imagined it would, and really paid for that on the last climb of today's stage. And I hate to say it, that made it a lot more exciting. If Froome would have just pedaled away from everybody, it would have been not unexpected, but the way it turned out was much more exciting, and Chris Froome in serious trouble. So Whether or not that continues, and what I honestly think is going to happen, that he'll have a chance to recuperate tomorrow and Friday, and then be considerably better on Saturday's stage to Angliru than he was today, and probably, I would imagine him not losing but a handful of seconds on the very last climb of the Vuelta up to the Angliru. But if you disagree, I'd love to hear from you. Will Froome crack in the last few days of this Vuelta? That is the question for today. I don't think it's going to happen. I think he's going to be much better in the stages to come. But it was, for me, a small measure of satisfaction to see that he actually is human and vulnerable at times. And we'll see how the rest of the Vuelta turns out. But I still believe he'll win. Very clever. He's great at masking his difficulty. His team is spectacular. Froome, he seems to know exactly what kind of effort he needs to make day in and day out, kilometer in, kilometer out, without overextending himself, and at the same time taking the chances to get time when they present them. We saw Chris sprinting for bonus seconds earlier in the Vuelta. Doesn't need to do that anymore. I don't see a scenario where he would have to do that. I don't think it'll get to be that close, but it would be pretty cool if it was. So it's going to be a pretty exciting last 3 days. Tomorrow is not easy either. A couple of tough climbs and a hard kick to the finish. So I was ready to suggest we had maybe a more interesting race to see who would be on the podium, but Nibali looking dangerous. Nibali did a great time trial, solid climb to the finish. And another thing I'd like to add is that if Alberto was much closer in the overall standings, would Chris have been able to chase him down on the final climb of today's stage and preserve his lead if he did theoretically have that? Or if he was attacking Contador, what would that scenario look like? I don't think we'll ever know. Alberto started a long ways down, but it's great to see him going for stage wins and racing competitive to the bitter end. And it would be a fairy tale ending to a great career if he were to win on the Angliru, which by the way he's racing is not impossible. So let me ask everybody this. How many stages does Matteo Trentin win in the last 4 days of the Vuelta? And will Contador win on the Angliru to sign off on a brilliant career? All right, everybody, that's your assignment overnight. Thanks for watching. Follow me on Facebook and Twitter. Please subscribe and keep the comments coming. And I'd like to commend everybody for appropriate language, at least from what I can tell from the comment section. All right, everybody, thanks a lot. Till next time.